Welcome to Oddity Insights with me, Pearl. And today we're going to sort of reveal an ancient mystery which has been revealed only recently. So we're exploring this, and it is basically about Melchizedek, the high priest, okay, that you see in Genesis 14. And Abraham gives him, the father Abraham, the patriarch, gives him tithes, okay. So he's a very enigmatic character, and you don't hear much about him in the Bible, Old Testament as well as the New Testament. There are very few instances where we read about him. Not much is known about his life or how and to whom he was born, but today I am going to reveal so much because I've been studying the Dead Sea Scrolls, also better known as the Qumran scrolls, and also the Nag Hammadi text. Now you're going to ask, what's the difference between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi text? Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of ancient Jewish manuscripts discovered between 1946 and 1956 in 11 caves near Khirbet, Qumran, on the northwestern shores of the Dead Sea. Whereas the Nag Hammadi texts it's a collection of early Christian and Gnostic texts discovered near the Upper Egyptian town of Nag Hammadi in 1945. So let's go directly to the study, because I'm going to link this study of Melchizedek to Genesis 14, Isaiah 9, Book of Psalms, specifically Psalm 110, Book of John, chapter 8, and of course Hebrews, chapter 7. Alright, so let me go to the first slide. So I made this tiny little presentation so that I could clearly tell you what I found. So the first thing is, did you know that the Book of Enoch 2, also known as the Secrets of Enoch, not to be confused with the Book of Enoch, but the Secrets of Enoch, went missing for over a millennium, that's over 1,000 years. Sometime before the 4th century, the book was lost and was only rediscovered again in 1773. The first English translation of the Book of Enoch only became available in 1821. Later, Aramaic versions of the Book of 2nd Enoch were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls and were published in 1950s. So just imagine, this book went missing from the 4th century upwards to 3 years before America was founded, because the USA was founded in 1776, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But imagine, it only surfaced in 1773, 3 years before the foundation of America. Okay, so that's just to give you an idea of the timeline. Okay, now we come to the mystery of Melchizedek. The Book of the Secrets of Enoch, or 2nd Enoch. As I said, there's the Book of Enoch and there's the Book of the Secrets of Enoch, or 2nd Enoch, tells the story of the miraculous birth of Melchizedek. Now, in the Old Testament, Melchizedek was a figure of great importance in biblical tradition because he was both king and priest. Now, traditionally, kings did not perform the roles of the high priests, and the high priests did not interfere with the roles of the kings. But here is Melchizedek, who was the king of Salem, right? He was, they say he's connected with Jerusalem, because Salem later became Jerusalem, and was revered by the Patriarch Abraham, who paid a tithe to him. He appears as a person only in an interpolated vignette, which is in Genesis 14, chapter 14, verses 18 to 20, of the story of Abraham after he rescued his kidnapped nephew Lot, by defeating a coalition of 5 Mesopotamian kings, right? Under the Shedor Leomer. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I think it's Hedor, or in Hebrew it'll probably be pronounced as Hedor Leomer. So who is Melchizedek? So now we know that Melchizedek is an old Canaanite name meaning my king is righteousness. So, in the last study we did on the menorah, I told you there are 2 words, there's Zadik and there's Rasha, right? So Zadik is basically good and righteous in a very divine way, and Rasha means evil, all right, or dark and evil. So Melchizedek is my king is righteousness, because Melchi means king and Zedek, as I said, means righteous in Hebrew. Salem or Salem, which means peace, of which he is said to be king, is Jerusalem. Melchizedek was the king of Salem and the priest of El Elyon, often translated as Most High God in the Old Testament. Right? So Melchizedek, Melchi is king, Melchi means king, and Zedek is righteousness or holiness or goodness. Okay? Next. In the second book of Enoch, in the last section of the work, the exaltation of Melchizedek tells how Melchizedek was born of a virgin, Sophonim or Sopanima, the wife of Ner. Now, who is Ner? Ner is one of the brothers of Noah. Now, this stuff isn't given in the Old Testament, but it's there in the scrolls, in the hundreds of scrolls found in Qumran. So Melchizedek, it tells of how Melchizedek was born of a virgin, Sophonim or Sopanima, the wife of Ner, a brother of Noah. Now this has an interesting, I didn't put that bit here, but I'll tell you what happened. So Ner, who was the brother of Noah, he suspected his wife because she was pregnant. Now Sophanima said she was pregnant because of the Holy Spirit, because of the, because she had done nothing wrong. She claimed her innocence. But when she was questioned by her husband Ner that, how come you're pregnant? We haven't been up to much or some such thing, okay? And she just went into such shock that how can you even question me about my righteousness? I have not been unfaithful to you. I am pregnant because of God, because it's a holy birth. And she just keeled over and died. By this time, she was full-term pregnant. Now, the child came out from his mother after she had died and sat on the bed beside her corpse, already physically developed, clothed, speaking and blessing the Lord, and marked with the badge of priesthood. Now, I'm not saying this. The scrolls from Qumran say this. And it's in the book of 2nd Enoch, in the last section, the exaltation of Melchizedek. Now, 2nd Enoch, Melchizedek, oh my God, I can't speak today. 2nd Enoch, Melchizedekian fragment 3:18 states, "The child appeared from his mother's dead body soon afterward, fully clothed, able to speak, and like one of 3 years old." So he was literally like a toddler. And he was speaking. Now Ner and Noah named the child Melchizedek because he was such an extraordinary child, and they had received this sort of download from God that this child needs to be named Melchizedek, which means the king of righteousness. Now, at the time of Melchizedek's birth, the earth was about to be destroyed by a flood. The book also goes on to state that 40 days after Melchizedek was born, he was taken by the archangel Michael to the Garden of Eden and was thus preserved from the deluge without having to be in Noah's ark. Now this is very interesting. I'm going to make this smaller so you can read the whole thing. All right. So the book of Second Noah, the Secrets of Enoch, states that 40 days after Melchizedek was born, he's taken by Archangel Michael to the Garden of Eden, and that was Gan Eden in the text, right? Gan Eden is a translation for the Garden of Eden, and he was preserved from the deluge, the 40 nights and days of rain that completely covered the earth, the Noah's flood, without having to be in Noah's ark. He was later to serve as priest and king on earth again in the account of Genesis 14, when Abraham encounters him many years after the flood. Yet Melchizedek was not to die during this destruction. This is from the scroll. Yet Melchizedek was not to die during this destruction, and neither would he be on the ark. God sent Archangel Michael to take Melchizedek and place him in Gan Eden, or the paradise of Eden. Okay, that's second Enoch. Now, the author of Hebrews in the New Testament refers to Melchizedek's virgin birth too in Hebrews 7:3. Now, I've put 7:1 to 4 here, and we'll go through it because, interestingly enough, all the entire chapter 7 of the book of Hebrews is about the comparison between Yeshua and Melchizedek, okay, or Jesus Christ and Melchizedek. So, verse 1 says, "This Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High, El Elyon. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, the name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. We've already been through that. Then also king of Salem, meaning king of peace." Now, this is the verse where the writer of the epistle of Hebrews, now I think it was Apostle Paul, but there are some scholars who debate that, saying that Paul didn't write in that manner. So there's some debate about who is the author of Hebrews, but I personally think it was Apostle Paul because it sounds so similar to me, with his other epistles, his love for the Lord, everything. It's very, it's so Apostle Paul. Okay, so now in verse 3, as I mentioned up here, it refers to Melchizedek's virgin birth. Okay, not to be confused with Jesus' virgin birth. Without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, because none of it is mentioned in the Old Testament. Resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. Okay, just think how great he was. He's talking about Melchizedek here. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. The plunder he had got from the battle with the 5 kings. Leomer, right? So this is super interesting because that means this text was there and it was widely read at the time the author of Hebrews wrote the epistle to the Hebrews. So I wanted to mention that. Now, the narrative preceding Melchizedek's introduction presents a picture of Melchizedek's involvement in the events of his era. The narration details Abram's, because remember before God renamed him Abraham and Sarah, he was Abram and his wife's name was Sarah. Okay? Sarai, sorry. Abram and Sarai. Then God renamed them, putting the Ha, okay, the letter Ha into their names, and then they became Abraham and Sarah. Okay? So the narration details Abram's rescue of his nephew Lot and his spectacular defeat of multiple kings, the 5 kings, and goes on to define the meeting place of Melchizedek and Abram as Emek HaShaveh. Now this is very interesting, guys, because this has to do with the end times. Emek HaShaveh, which is Emek HaMalek. The meeting site has been associated with Emek Yehoshaphat, or the valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay? It's written Josaphat here, but it's Jehoshaphat, I know. Emek Yehoshaphat is the valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay, the Qumran scrolls also indicate that Melchizedek was used as a name of the eternal king of righteousness. Now, in part of the Qumran scrolls, I read this and I also put it in the presentation because I thought it was very interesting. So you have Melchizedek in contrast with Belial, who is given the name of Melchi-Resha, or king of wickedness. So you have these two entities. There's Melchizedek, the king of righteousness, and there is Belial, and the Bible refers to the sons of Belial. So Belial, who is given the name of Melchi-Resha. Resha is evil, wicked. Zedek is good, righteous. So you have good, righteous, goodness and righteousness, and you have evil and wickedness. So Melchi-Resha is also an entity who is the king of wickedness, and that is the name given in the Qumran scrolls, to Belial. That it can also be called the accuser or Hasatan, Satan, as we know him in the Western world. the name is actually Hasatan, means the accuser, okay, the opposer, the evil one. Alright, so this part I thought was interesting enough to share. Alright, now let's move this back here. This is something amazing, guys, because 11Q13 or 11Q Melch is a fragment of a text dated to the end of the 2nd or the start of the 1st century BC. So this is about Melchizedek, and it was found in Cave 11, the last cave to be discovered at Qumran, okay, in the West Bank, and is part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So here we have this fragment of a text which was written, it's been carbon dated to 1st century BC, which is like decades, right? Decades before Jesus' ministry started. And these scrolls were actually written way before that. Anyway, we'll come to that. So Melchizedek, in this fragment, Melchizedek is seen as a divine being in the text and is referred to as El or Elohim, titles usually reserved for God. So in the Old Testament, we already have it written that Melchizedek was the priest of El Elyon, or the Most High. And it specifically states El Elyon, okay? Now, according to this text, Melchizedek will proclaim the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, and he will atone for the people who are predestined to him. He will also judge the peoples. So this is a clear indication about who Melchizedek really is, was, and will be. Now, this is amazing, okay? So here we've got the association or identification of Melchizedek with the Messiah, which predates Christianity. This is before Christianity was even there. As I said, it was before the ministry of Jesus even started. So this was in the Second Temple period, which is 515 BC to 70 AD. Now, when did Isaiah do his writing? Let's take a quick look at when Isaiah wrote. So I have it here. Right, so the book of Isaiah was written sometime during the ministry of Isaiah, which was approximately 740 to 701 BC. Isn't that incredible? I mean, all this has completely blown my mind. And the book of Isaiah, not only fragments, but the entire book of Isaiah was found in the Qumran scrolls. You know, before this discovery happened between 1946 and 1956 in the caves of Qumran, a lot of scholars said that the book of Isaiah was written like in 70 AD after the Second Temple. It could not have been before Christ's birth because he describes it so clearly. He must have known Jesus Christ and he must have. But these texts have been carbon dated. And this is before the ministry of Jesus even began. Before it was this particular scroll was carbon dated to 2nd BC. So you can imagine. That is like 3 decades before Jesus' ministry began on earth. So now, and this is just some of the scrolls. There are many scrolls that have been lost forever. This was preserved, and I believe it was divinely preserved, so it could be revealed in this period of time. It's all like even the Nag Hammadi texts were revealed in 1945. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Qumran scrolls, they were discovered between 1946 and 1956. I think it's a work of God. Nothing else can explain it. All right, so coming to this scroll, so you see Isaiah, I told you I'll link it with Isaiah 9. Well, Isaiah also refers to the coming Messiah in Isaiah 9, 6 to 7. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Melchizedek is the priest-king of Salem. Salem means peace. So Melchizedek is also the Prince of Peace. He is the Prince of Righteousness. He's also the Prince of Peace. Okay, so there's that connection with Isaiah, which was written between 700, we just went through that, right? 750 BC to 701 BC or something like that. Okay, so now this association between Melchizedek and Jesus is directly supported by a quotation from Jesus himself in the Gospel of John chapter 8, in which Jesus claims to have personally met Abraham. So now we have the word of the Lord telling us that he was there and he met Abraham. So in chapter 8 verse 56 it says, "Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day." Sorry about the traffic. Anyway, let's hope this mic can cancel some of that noise. There's an awful lot of traffic right now. It's tourist season. So in India it gets really hot in the plains and it's very cool and very nice up here in the mountains. So we have a lot of Himalayan bikers going up and down at all odd hours. Okay, so let's get back to the study. So in John chapter 8, in which Jesus claims to have personally met Abraham, verse 56, "Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then said the Jews unto him, Thou art not yet 50 years old. You're not even 50, and you claim to have seen Abraham, and hast thou seen Abraham? And Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am." And when he said that, all hell broke loose. They wanted to stone him to death because before Abraham was, like before your patriarch was, I am. Now, I am is the name of God. And the people there went completely ballistic. They wanted to stone him to death because of this verse. So you see, Jesus himself has met Abraham as Melchizedek. I think that is what this means here. Once you connect the Nag Hammadi text to the Dead Sea Scroll text to this, to John chapter 8, you see here that clearly Jesus is saying that I was Melchizedek, the priest of El Elyon. I met Abraham, because who met Abraham? It was Melchizedek, connected back to Genesis 14. Now there's more, which is pretty amazing, really. Now, as I mentioned, a collection of early scripts dating on or before the 4th century, discovered in 1945 and known as the Nag Hammadi Library, contains a tractate pertaining to Melchizedek. Here it is proposed that Melchizedek is Jesus Christ. They just clearly openly say it in the Nag Hammadi text. In this it was given that Melchizedek, as Jesus Christ, lives, preaches, dies, and is resurrected. The coming of the Son of God, Melchizedek, speaks of his return to bring peace, supported by God, and he is a priest-king who dispenses justice. This is in the Nag Hammadi text that I read. Isn't this this is such an amazing study, guys. I'm in love with this study because so much about Melchizedek became so clear suddenly that I was mind blown. Okay, now the association with Christ is made explicit by the author of the Epistle to the Hebrews, where Melchizedek, the King of Righteousness and the King of Peace, is directly associated with the eternal priesthood of the Son of God. Now this was also found in the Nag Hammadi texts. In the New Testament, references to Melchizedek appear only in the Epistle to the Hebrews. That's only in the New Testament, though these are extensive. Now, these verses that I went through, these refer to Melchizedek within the verse. Like the name Melchizedek is in the verse, but the entirety of Hebrews chapter 7 is about the linking of Melchizedek and Jesus Christ. So we have verses, Hebrews chapter 5 verse 6 and verse 10 in chapter 5. Then we have Hebrews chapter 6 verse 20. And these are all references to Melchizedek in the book of Hebrews. Then in chapter 7, the whole chapter is about Melchizedek and Jesus. But in these verses, in chapter 7 verse 1, 10, 11, 15, 17 and 21, actually spell out the name of Melchizedek. Now Jesus Christ is there identified as a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. And this, the writer of Hebrews, which I believe is Apostle Paul, okay, others may debate that, but I believe he's Apostle Paul. The writer of the Hebrews was quoting from Psalm 110, specifically verse 4, in which Psalm 110 is a messianic verse, is a messianic psalm, sorry. And verse 4 says, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek." This is referring to the Messiah, who we know as Christ Jesus, right? Or Yeshua Mashiach, Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, this is where I told you this is an amazing study, and this is what I wanted to say, that it's truly astonishing to note that scrolls that have been recently dug up, as in 50 years ago or so, 70 years ago now, and carbon dated to 1 to 2 BC, decades before Jesus' ministry on earth began, and have come to light now, paint an extraordinary picture of the Messiah, who we know as Christ, the Anointed One. Christ means the Anointed One. Jesus in English, and Yeshua or Yahushua in Hebrew, which is another word for salvation. And Melchizedek of Salem, the Prince of Righteousness, Zedek, and the Prince of Peace, Salem. Okay, so, which is shalom basically. So, when you say shalom, it means peace, peace out. People say shalom. They don't even, most of the people who say shalom, they don't even know what they're saying. It means the divine peace of God. It's not just peace to you, it is, may the holy presence of the Lord bring peace to you. Let El Shaddai bring peace to you, because, I read in the Dake's Bible. Now, this is not in all of the Dake's Bible. It's one of the oldest Dake's Bibles that I managed to get my hands on. Now, on that, he says El Shaddai means the breasted one. Now, we know El Shaddai means the Most High, right? But why in the old midrashes and the old texts of Hebrew scholars going back centuries, they say Shaddai means the breasted one or the chested one. And when a baby is at the mother's breast, the kind of comfort, you'll have a baby who's, persnickety and crying and inconsolable. The mother just has to take that little baby, put it on her chest, to her breast, and she feeds the baby. And suddenly there's this divine peace that comes upon both the mother and the child when the child is being fed at the mother's breast. Now, El Shaddai, do you know, guys, you won't find this in many places, but because I put my nose in and I study a lot, I found that El Shaddai means the God who takes you to him like a mother takes a newborn to her breast. The God who comforts you. That level of comfort, nothing in this world, nothing else in this world can give. He takes you, he comforts you, he feeds you, he loves you. And that is what the Father, I know lot of the Bibles and study Bibles say Al Shaddai means the most powerful, the most high, the Almighty God. But there's another meaning to El Shaddai, which means the one who can comfort you, who can take you to him, like a mother takes a baby to her breast. And with that, all your fretting, all your tantrums, all your, hissy fits are gone because you're comforted finally. So this was my study, and I think the mystery of Melchizedek is solved now, because see, Melchizedek has a virgin birth, right? Just as Mary gave birth to Jesus, it was a virgin birth. She was also questioned. She was also questioned by Joseph, right? By the father, by Jesus's earthly father. And he wasn't sure, like what's going on. But then the angels came and told him that no, this is a holy baby. Similarly, Noah's brother Ner, he questioned his wife, Sopanima. Let's go back there. And she was so hurt by that question that how can you even doubt? How can you doubt me? Like, how can you doubt my integrity, my loyalty to you? This is God's child. And this was a holy birth. So you see, there is this is the one that says She literally died of shock. That how could anyone question her about this? How could anyone say, okay, where did that go? I'm pretty sure I put that in my, Sophanim or Sopanima, the wife of Nir. So she dies of shock when her husband questions her. This is Mary was also like, this is God's child. I've done nothing wrong. And, well, so there's that connection, the virgin birth. Plus, the beauty of it is we know that Yeshua in Hebrew, and Jesus in English, Jesus in Greek. We know that he is going to be the priest, the high priest, because he does the blood atonement, right? We know he is going to be the priest as well as the king, which is something only Melchizedek in the Old Testament was given that honor, that he is the priest, the high priest as well as the king. So you see, this is extremely interesting. And the fact that this is all found, it goes into detail about Melchizedek's birth, his life, his appearance, and then what happened when, why would he be born at that time? Was that like a miscalculation? Hey, the flood's coming. Why is the holy baby being born at a time like that? I believe it has something to do with the 40 days. It has something to do with the 40 days. I think it's extremely important because when I read that the book also goes on to state that 40 days after Melchizedek was born, he was taken by Archangel Michael to Gan Eden, or the Garden of Eden, paradise, and was thus preserved from the deluge. This 40 days is very interesting to me because 40 days has a lot of connotations. We know Jesus was he was in the desert for 40 days before his ministry started. Now Melchizedek is also 40 days on earth before he is taken to Gan Eden, and he's preserved without having to go through the flood or to be on Noah's Ark. And it was done because he was later to serve as priest and king on earth again in Genesis 14. So it's all connected, guys. It's all connected. I told you before, the Old Testament, the New Testament, these scrolls they're finding now. And honestly, the scroll of Isaiah, you know how much debate there's been? Still the scrolls were found and carbon dated, till the Qumran scrolls were found. There were literally scholars around the world saying that the book of Isaiah could not have been written before Jesus' birth, it was written after. And they had proof that this so-and-so script was found, it was carbon dated to so-and-so time. They had proof. But then God blasted everything, right, by opening up the Qumran caves. Miracle, I'm telling you. And then now they've all shut up because now they've found the entire scroll of Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, completely intact, with the same verses that we see in our Bibles today, in our modern Bibles that we can buy at the stores today. We have the entire book of Isaiah. This scroll they found was dated to 2 BC. Before the ministry of Christ. And that was just one of the scrolls. The Jewish tradition says that it was written sometime between, when was that actually? I keep forgetting. I've got brain fog, guys. Brain fog. Yeah, 740 to 701 BC is when Isaiah's ministry was in and around Jerusalem. So you see, this is such an interesting story, the story of the mystery, I should say, of Melchizedek. I absolutely enjoyed the study, and I've just put portions of it because otherwise it'll just go on for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours if you read the entire. If you're interested, read it. Read The Secrets of Enoch, Second Enoch. I know most of you have read the book of Enoch. It's available freely on YouTube and everywhere else, but this mystery is not there. So I thought I'd share it with you guys because I just enjoyed it. Oh, and the Jehoshaphat, right? The fact that Melchizedek and Abram, before he became Abraham, Melchizedek and Abram met at the valley of Jehoshaphat, okay? Or the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is incredibly interesting because that plays out in the end times. So there again we have that link to Melchizedek being This, can you say avatar or a type or a shadow of Jesus? I believe he is that, and there are so many things that point to that. And now with these texts, this particular scroll also, no, this one, 11Q Melch. My dog is snoring in the background. I'm really sorry, but my dogs are old and they're sweethearts. And my big hill dog he's quite young compared to Teacup, who you saw in the last video. She's 15 years old. And dog years, that'll be 90 plus. So Danny is like, I think 4 years old now. He's young, but he's been out the whole day and it rained and everything. And he's busy snoring right under right behind my desk there, right behind the chair. So anyway, excuse that, but I do hope you've enjoyed this study because I really enjoyed presenting it. I thought it was such fun to see so many connections. As I said, we connected these fragments from Qumran and from the Nag Hammadi text to Genesis 14, Isaiah 9, Book of Psalms, John 8, Hebrews 7, and it truly is an ancient mystery being revealed now, being revealed in these times. We are in very special times. We're living in super special times. And I think I'll conclude this here. So I hope you enjoyed the study, and this guy's snores are Danny is snoring louder and louder. His snores are sort of amplifying. I don't think my noise cancellation mic can handle it. So I'll say bye now. And God bless you guys. Stay happy, stay blessed, and smile at people, help others, and yeah, and watch these studies. They'll give you something to smile about, right? So God bless you guys, and goodbye.